This is ICO Talk with Jürgen Welsink.
Hello, it's Jürgen Welsink from the Cryptocurrency Academy. I'm here together with Andrew Carter. He's the CEO and you're also the founder of the company, of Fathom. I talked to Jennifer and Nick yesterday about this proposition and I thought this was really interesting. They told me you're the man for the interview. So can you explain a little bit about Fathom?
Absolutely. So what we're trying to do here is decentralized data science in general. We're starting with apps as our first customer. So at the moment, for most of the app industry, there's no standardization. So for every 10 apps that are generating analytical data on user behavior or performance, they're generating 10 different types of data. So comparing, contrasting, it's really impossible at the moment. So doing anything like industry benchmarking or predictive analytics on a large scale is largely impossible. So what we're doing is we're automating the data collection so the developers don't need to worry about this anymore. And that data is automatically collected in a standardized format and reduced and made available in a public database. Now, anyone who wants to query this data can do so for Fathom tokens, and those tokens are then distributed to the developers who provide this data and to their end users. And this way we form the foundation of a data science economy, where anyone can then use that data, generate value from it, and the people who supplied the data in the first place are rewarded for their contributions.
Yeah, so basically you can sell your data.
Exactly.
And of course, the developers want data.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I can imagine that, for example, there are smart cities. For example, you know, they need a lot of data, and sometimes it would be really handy if you have data from all kind of cities to look at infrastructure and things like that, and
Exactly.
you can combine it and. Do I have to think something like that?
Yes, precisely. So long term, we want to get beyond apps into IoT, into smart cities, into things like I've been talking to people over the last few days about finance, about drones, about all the different applications, anything that where data is gathered and then reapplied, which is largely everything these days. That our system can help with that. We're starting with apps because it's a place where the data economy already exists. It's just very poorly served. But using that as a standpoint, we plan to go out and do everything eventually.
Okay, that's really cool. And what I also understood basically, when you're a developer, of course you need data, but you can create a kind of a module.
Yes.
In which you make maybe a user interface or whatever, so you can really basically pump in the data and see how it works, right?
So so the entire platform is going to be decentralized. So if anyone wants to create a module, which are the elements that create the data, and standardize parts of the app, so the developers can implement those in 1 or 2 lines of code, anyone can create a module, put it onto the decentralized registry, and anyone else can use it. And the person who created that module receives a commission on all of the queries they help generate. And then we also have a layer of what we call value realization, which is where data scientists, data engineers, other of those professionals can build things that reapply the data. So we have 2 types of components in this state so far. The first are what we call insights. These are smart reports whereby someone can do a single analysis, and because the data is standardized, that analysis can be reapplied to any app or any other subject. So I might spend some time writing an insight, analyzing notifications. That if I apply that to my app, that'll tell me that my notifications are performing so well against the average. Maybe make a few recommendations about how to reschedule those notifications to really optimize them. But someone else could then just by clicking subscribe, have that insight report tailor itself to their app instead. And as the author of that insight report, I would receive commission on all of the queries that I'm generating from the database as a result. Now the second type, agents, they go one step further. They do the same sort of analysis, but rather than surfacing their results as a report, they automatically reconfigure the modules live to enact their changes directly and automate the entire process. So to take the example from before, instead of surfacing that the notifications need to be rescheduled, they would just automatically reschedule the notifications. And as new data came in, as the database power expands in general, they'll be able to do their job more efficiently, more automatically. At this point, we automate the entire process of live operations for apps, and ultimately for every industry. So that the app developers, they can spend more of their time developing their USP and focusing on the things that they really care about, and less time just building the general infrastructure that allows all this to be delivered.
Yeah, because basically I can see if you have all kind of modules, you can basically create. Okay, it can be a kind of a drag and drop kind of thing, which I've been using with databases in the past.
Yeah, so essentially the core infrastructure of an app eventually should be able to be done just by picking the modules that you want to build. So if you're creating a new app, or even taking an app that already exists and wanting to put it into the Fathom ecosystem, you simply say, well, I've got in-app purchases, I'll use the in-app purchase module. That will automate all of my in-app purchases. It will allow me to not worry about gathering the data, because the data will be automatically gathered. I won't have to worry about making it live ops ready, because I'll be able to reconfigure the entire thing live. And it'll also handle all of the kind of bespoke systems for that use case. So to take in-app purchases as an example, our in-app purchase module is already live. That module now is live in 7 apps with our prototype system. And I would be able to reconfigure that live, and it would automate all of its internal processes as well. So the example for in-app purchases is we have a microservice live that does receipt validation cross-platform. So if you're using our in-app purchase module, you don't even need to worry about hackers because we'll be validating every receipt that comes through. And we'll be tracking the validation rate as well. So you'll receive all of that data. And because that data is your own, you can access it for free. But if you also want to benchmark that data against other apps and see if your app is performing better than you would expect or worse than you would expect, so you can figure out where to optimize, where improvements need to be made, you can do that through the larger database as well. Again, just with the click of a button.
Yeah, and basically what I also think of there is a module, basically when that's going to be updated, it's going to be updated for everyone.
Indeed.
So basically when you kind of buy a module, I don't know, is that going to be a monthly subscription or is it going to be a one-off? So does the developer itself, himself or herself, can decide how they want the model to be?
Precisely. So for the full decentralized platform will be delivered through a decentralized registry. So whenever anyone creates a new module, they'll put it onto this registry, and and every time they want to update it, they'll have to update it on the registry. So we'll have various checks in place to make sure that the modules that go onto the registry are sound, that the community themselves are judging what that is. So it's not in the hands of Fathom; it's a fully decentralized system. So at that point, if you want to update the module, you simply go through the same check again, and then the update joins the registry. However, if you're a developer, you can choose to stick with the previous version of the module because it is essentially just the code that plugs into the open source SDK of Fathom. So the power is always in the hands of the developer.
Yeah, okay. But I can also imagine, I have a module, but I think, okay, I like some adjustments in there. So is there also a kind of a communication channel that it will be possible for people, okay, I love this module, I love what you did, but can you change this a little bit so that it will be more to my...
Absolutely. So we want to do a lot around the community, around this decentralized platform. We're going to be building a lot of tools. We've already started to have a lot of discussions about what tools we can provide for this sort of working environment. And one of the things that really excites us outside of the platform itself is how generally these decentralized organizations are going to work together and find ways of collaborating across the entire planet. So if someone has built a module, then they're incentivized to maintain that module because they're earning Fathom tokens from its continued usage. But we hope that every module will be open source so that anyone else can look at the code, and they'll be fully extensible as well. So the live configuration and the in-app operation, so this is an extendable template. So if there's something additional you want to create, then you can either extend that module within your app, or you can work with the modules created to add that functionality to the module. Or you can create an entirely new module that works with the previous one. So a good example here would be if you wanted to create a sales module that worked with the in-app purchase module. You could do that separately, and you could rely on the fact that the in-app purchase module's interface is all standardized, the data it's collecting is all standardized, so you wouldn't have to worry about dependencies changing or about the interdependency there between the existing module. You'd just be able to build your new module safe in the knowledge that the standardization layer between the two would ensure that regardless of if one changed, yours would still remain the same.
Yeah, that will still stay there, ceteris paribus. Yeah. Exactly. Okay, cool. And one of the things, if you look at the smart city, for example, data is pouring in
all the time.
All the time. So basically, you will have an earning model.
Precisely.
Yeah? So you can kind of automate all that kind of data coming in.
Exactly. Yes, and by standardizing it all, every single city can benefit from every other city. So the idea is that this will enable, as data does in general, everything to be automated once we characterize it and understand it. So at the moment, with apps, with smart cities, with every single application, there's so much reinvention, so many analyses that have to be done over and over again, just in case the data's changed, or because the general origin of the data is tweaked ever so slightly. By standardizing all this, we can show that every analysis only needs to be done once, regardless of what it's been done on, and then we can automate the repetition of that analysis, and then all we need to do at that point is interpret the results if they change. So it really shortcuts the entire data science process and allows the data scientists who are creating a lot of this to do their analysis once, get rewarded for having created that value in perpetuity, and then move on to solving the next problem. And it does exactly the same for the developers as well. They can focus on just building the system once, benefited from it for as long as it's useful to other people, and then just focus on building their USP, building the things that make their apps unique.
I think this is really interesting, to be honest. One of the things that would also, because if you're let's get back to smart city and pouring in data, I will get tokens. Basically, with those tokens, I will be able to buy modules, which I can use to analyze my data.
Precisely.
So basically, it can be almost for free.
Precisely. It's a fully circular system, and that's how economy should work.
Yeah.
Really, it should be a case of the value you generate can be returned to you in different forms, and the token is only the medium by which that happens. And that's how large-scale economies are supposed to work. But because they're so abstracted from the end users, no one sees the benefit of it. Yeah. So when I'm going out every day and spending fiat currency in the UK, I'm helping the economy grow. But at the same time, everything I buy is in fiat, and everything I earn is in fiat in the same currency. So I don't see the benefit of that. But with these nano economies, we can build our own data, like we're doing at Fathom, and everything else is being built. It really allows people to experience the benefit they're driving for the overall economy. So for every single module that gets created in the decentralized platform, every single new data channel, every single new insight agent that realizes the data, it means there's a greater demand for the data overall. So the overall economy is benefited entirely whenever anyone participates, and everyone sees the benefit directly.
Okay, cool. I like the concept for sure. Basically, you're going to do an ICO.
Indeed.
So can you explain a little bit? Is there a pre-ICO, or have you done a pre-ICO already? Did you have some seed funding? A lot of questions in one.
So we're working on a token seed round now.
Yeah.
What we're doing to ensure we're fully compatible with UK regulations is we're doing this through a convertible loan note. So we're looking to raise 500,000. We're talking with various people already, but if anyone else wants to get involved, now is the time to talk to us. After that, and at the same time, we're trying to pre-allocate 5 million worth of the ICO total hard cap, which is 40 million. Okay. That 5 million guarantees we can do the core project for the apps, but the 40 million means that we can rapidly go into IoT, into drones, into finance, into all the industries where this can be applied. So we're just closing the final through legal points to make sure we've got the full infrastructure to perform this. Then we're going to be announcing a date. So we'll hopefully be announcing a date in the next 2 or 3 weeks. At that point, we'll be able to go to ICO in the next 2 or 3 months.
Okay, interesting. One of the things that's always I can buy and I can sell data.
Indeed.
If I listen to your talk as well, there's also. It would be really interesting. I don't know if you thought of it already. Probably you did, but it would be interesting if I can buy a kind of IoT devices also with your tokens.
So one of the things we're looking at for remote sensing in particular is finding ways of allowing anyone to collect and create data or contribute in general.
Exactly.
So this is the sort of thing that really inspires me for things like NGOs, where data can be analysed by individuals, data can be generated by individuals regardless of their economic status, regardless of their existing access to funds. If we can provide people all over the world with intelligent sensors that they can use to collect climate data or data on individuals, data on brand placement, there's a huge depth of information there that currently can't be collected. But with advances in remote sensing and with an economy to back it up, we can provide anyone with the means to contribute to the data economy and be rewarded for doing so. And that's part of the wider effort. So even end users, when they're using apps that are powered by Fathom, they'll be receiving tokens for their data as and when it's used. And they'll have full control of that data as well.
It will be more a sharing economy, right?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Everyone is currently participating in this economy now. They're just not seeing the value of it. Whenever you're using Facebook is taking the value you're generating and profit from it themselves, and you're only getting the Facebook experience back. But we can actually properly drill all the way down and ensure that every single person who's playing a role in this economy is being fairly rewarded, and the token is the instrument that we can use to do that.
Okay, and then one last question, and then we put some more information about Fathom just on the website. But the token metrics, how much is because you have teams, you have advisors, you have developers, how much is cut from the allocation? Yeah.
So our total allocation is just over 60 million. And 50% of that is going to be sold in the ICO. 15% of it is shared between the founders of the company, and that's on a long-term vesting schedule. So most of that doesn't vest for 3 years. Full details of that can be available in the white paper, so people can look at that.
Okay, so it's in escrow with slow.
So we're therefore committed to the economy for the next 3 years to make sure we do it right. The advisors get a 3% share between them, and the rest gets stored within the company for different tranches for employees and for recruitment. And there's a 20% internal reserve that we're going to use to onboard new people to the platform and to support the economy in its early life. But that internal reserve is also on a vesting schedule, so we can't just do a second token sale in a year's time and make loads of profit. We want to make sure that the company's future is secure. But 50% of the tokens are going out in the ICO available to purchase.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, great. Thanks a lot, you guys, and Andrew. Thanks a lot for this intensive talk.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. See you soon.